That is what was settled. So, further discussion regarding India's foreign policy. Now, Suresh Prabhu was on his feet. Kindly start again.
Thank you, Madam.
Colonel Ji.
Madam, I must congratulate you in person for initiating a debate on an important issue, as important as this foreign policy, which is now debated in the House after a fairly long time, and surely for the first time since I entered the House. Madam, I think it is more appropriate to discuss this issue pertaining to India's foreign policy at a most appropriate time, because we just lost an international election in which India was a candidate to be a member for the Security Council, and in which we lost this election to Japan. Madam, when we lost the election, there has been an explanation which seems plausible also, that India had to lose to a power which is economically more powerful than India. But we give this rationalization for losing an election, but when we come to foreign policy, we always talk of various values, rhetoric of values, and it is very difficult for somebody to really try to reconcile. One is the reality which exists on the ground, that India is an economically inferior power to a country like Japan, but at the same time we keep on talking and harping on issues like we are a superior country having values, and we try to pursue a foreign policy taking values as something which guides us. Madam, this is also time that we lost recently a very humiliating, we had to face a humiliating situation in which India was not even invited when there was a meeting of European Union, some countries from Asia, in which India was excluded, and for the first time ASEAN and Europe met for the first time together when India was not even invited. So I think this is, considering, if not more, at least these two issues, this is the most appropriate time to have a debate on foreign policy. Sir, it always appears that what really guides our foreign policy, we always claim that we have got a continuity in our foreign policy. If we are going to take a solace and we are going to only pat our back saying that we have only continuity in our foreign policy and we are really not going to look at any other issues, then I think we are really not doing justice to this very important issue about how our foreign policy should be guided. Sir, it is needless to say that foreign policy of any country has to be guided by its own self-interest. And when we really talk about our interest, today India is going all over the world with a begging bowl, asking for money. We are going in the name of globalization, but we are saying that every country who can offer us help, either loan, foreign direct investment, or any other thing, is most welcome, because that's what is India's topmost priority now. And it is understandable, because a country like India, which is capital starved, has to look at foreign investment into India to supplement its domestic savings. But sir, if this is our national priority today, is our foreign policy serving this purpose, is something which really one has to look at. And I really fail to understand whether we are really taking this aspect into consideration. Sir, we have, as I said, that we always talk about continuity in our foreign policy, and only we get ourselves satisfied, saying that we are following a policy which was there even 40 years back, 30 years back, and irrespective of the fact that the governments have changed, the foreign policy has not changed. If we really look at that scenario, sir, I would like to ask few questions. So number one, whether our continuity has helped India in which areas is something which I would like to know from the Foreign Affairs Minister, because we have been continuing a policy of having relations with China which are neither improved nor deteriorated, but we have been maintaining a sort of a solid only continuity in those relationships. Sir, China has increased its gross domestic product. It has doubled its gross domestic product in last 8 years. So it is likely to increase it again in the next 8 years, when the GDP of China is likely to be even more than the US. A country like China, which is really attracting huge amounts of foreign investments, The country like China, which is not even a member of WTO, which country like China, which is not bothered about 301 being imposed on it for its policies that they are pursuing, and we are on the other side, India claiming to be having Panchashila as a common objective between the two countries, is not able to even attack 10% of what China is able to get. If the continuity is something which we mean that we are not having any more disputes with China, but are we really trying to normalize the relations with China is something which one has to really look at. And I know that there have been off and on interactions with Chinese counterparts now. There was a recent visit of a very high-powered delegation to India from China. But I think we should really have some sort of, rather than having this type of relation, we should try to expedite this process of normalization of relationship. Sir, I think the world, we are just yesterday or today also we debated about the WTO. So we are talking about WTO at a time when we are trying to say that there has to be a free flow of capital, goods, services from one country to another, and there has to be least restrictions on the same. But when we are talking about the same, we are at the same time creating different types of trade blocks. There is a NAFTA, there is a ASEAN, there is a European Union, but India is having a trade block, if not trade block, at least a regional understanding of SAARC, in which probably India's GDP is more than the other members of the SAARC. If we can have some sort of an understanding, some sort of we move towards an objective of creating a common market with a country like China, probably that would be really helpful to us. And I think our foreign policy must take into consideration these economic realities and how our country has to move towards it. Sir, we have been trying, as we are talking about continuity, we once upon a time were invited by ASEAN to be a full-fledged member of it. That time India, for some obvious reason, did not join. And now we are waiting in queue even to be a dialogue member of ASEAN. I think this is something, if it means the result of continuity, I don't know what we are really gained out of it. Sir, I would like to suggest that India needs to have a comprehensive policy not just for foreign affairs, not just for economic affairs, but general national policy which should take into consideration to promote our national interest. The foreign policy would be part of it. And for that, we need to have something like a 15-20 years plan in which all our national priorities need to be spelled out. And to pursue those national priorities, foreign policy should be one of the ingredients. I think we should be able to do that. And if we have something like this, then truly we can say that such policy as a national policy has been debated by the country, then we can claim that it has a consensus of all the shades of opinion in the country. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Shri